Now let's have a look at Pimcore documents. What if we, for example, wanted to add a new document under Find in Order, include it in the navigation, and as well create a new page? To do this, we will go under Find and By, right click on it, and create a new content page. The reason that we want to create a new content page is because we can add dynamic content to this page. Let me show you. Let's, for testing purposes, call it test. Click on enter. And now you'll see you have a new, basically blank page where you can enter a headline. The reason why this is showing is because if you go under SEO and settings, under controller action and template, you can see that the predefined controller that we're using is the content controller and the default action. As you can see also, the template is currently blank. The reason for this is because of the naming system. If you're using the content controller and the default action, this means that within your project, let me show you, in your templates folder, you have a content folder. This is the naming system. So if you have a content controller, you should have a content folder. And under it, we should have a default.html.twig template. If you're using this naming system, you don't have to define the name of the template. However, if you're not using it, then you would click on this and just pick one of the templates from your project which you want to use. We're not going to do that since we plan on using the content controller and the default action. Let's get back to the editing. Let's edit the title. And for example, we would like to add a gallery. The gallery here is actually something that is called an area brick. Area bricks can be custom made. In the demo project, you will have a lot of area bricks that are custom made. This specific area brick is made to create a gallery, as the name suggests. So here in the drop-down menu, you can select the number of images you plan on having within your gallery. For testing purposes, we're just going to have 3 and just click on the plus sign. And now you can see that you have 3 places where you can drag and drop a certain image. So let's do that. Go to the Assets tab. Go to, let's say, Brand Logos. And let's just pick the first 3 logos that we have. Once you've done that, click on Save and Publish. And that's basically it. You just created a new page. If we refresh the site, we can see that under the Find in Order, we now have a test option within our menu. If we click on this, we can see that our gallery is now loaded. So let's close this. We can also make further adjustments to this page, of course. If we go under SEO and settings, we can see that the title currently is test, which is displayed here in the tab. If we want to change the SEO settings, and let's just call this testing. If you are familiar with WordPress, this will be very familiar to you because there is a plugin for this specific functionality. Now if we refresh the page, we can see that our title has changed. If you leave this title blank, for example, and we go back to the page, you'll see that it now says test. And if you wonder why, it's because the heading here is called test, or it has the word test within it. That is kind of the fallback. We can also change the URL for the current page. As you can see, it's now under en find and by /test. if you wanted to change this URL, you would just type like /testing, save and publish, and your URL would change to /testing. Another great feature that you can find here under navigation and properties is adding custom properties for your document. What this is that you can define kind of a variable which you would send to a specific document. These variables are inheritable. So if, for example, I would add a new property under the EN, if I turn on the inheritable mode, all of the documents that are below it, all of the children, would get the same property. For example, a use case would be if you have ads on your site, you would add a new variable called has ads. You would put in the type of checkbox, which will give us a Boolean value. So let's add this to the document, and we would put it, let's say, by default as checked or true. And now on the test page, we can see that we have the has ads property set as true. If we don't want to have ads on this page, we would just add a new has ads checkbox that would be false. And let's just save and publish this. And now we can see that we have a false one, and the other one has actually disappeared from our inherited values. How can we use this? If you go to the test page, let's just refresh it, see that it's working. Let's go to Pimcore documents. This is the official documentation for the documents. Let's just scroll down, and as you can see, we have properties right here. Let's just open this in a new tab, and we can see that we can get a certain property by its name, like so. So if we just copy this, go into the code, and as we said, we're using the default html.twig. We can just easily set the variable. So let's just call it has ads, and we can display it, let's say, within a P or a paragraph. And if has ads, we want to display yes, and if we don't have them, display no. In our case, since we did override it, we should not have ads on this page, as you can see, no. But if we delete this, save and publish, we go back here, it's gonna say yes because it's now inherited from its parent. And that's the basic use case for properties. Also, you don't have to necessarily pick a checkbox. There are a lot of different types of properties that you can pass. For example, a document, an asset, if you want a page-specific asset, an object, and the checkbox or Boolean that we just used. Another thing that's available is the navigation option on the right side. Here we have the name and the title, which will be shown within the navigation once you hover over the menu item. Right now it says test, but if we want to change it to, let's say, testing, and let me just put in the title so I can show you what the title does as well. If we save and publish this change, refresh the site, you can see that now in the breadcrumbs it says testing, as well as it says testing here. But if I keep my mouse hovering over the testing option in the menu, you can see that it shows the title of test that we put in here. Another thing that you can control is how the link will behave once you click on it. So let's say if you put in blank, it would open within a new tab. Another thing that we have below it is the option to exclude this page from the navigation. This can have multiple use cases. For example, if you have a page for terms of use, you would probably not have it within the navigation. It's usually located in the footer. So let's pretend that this page is something that we do not wish to show within the navigation. We could put in the checkbox, save and publish. And if we refresh the page, we can see that it's not here anymore. And the breadcrumb has also been updated because it's not technically within the document hierarchy anymore. Another thing that we have here, which I almost forgot, is the language. When you set the language for a particular document, this means that you defined the language obviously for it, and that you can get this language when translating a particular page. Down here we have some advanced options where we can add our custom classes or parameters for a particular document. There are also a lot of different options which we don't usually use. It depends on the use case, to be honest, but usually you will not use these options down here. On the right side of the navigation and properties, we have the versions tab. Here you can check the version of previous documents that the admin has or another user has edited. You can see the time and the date where this document was edited. And as well, you can use previous versions of the document if, for example, someone has or you have made a mistake and you want to revert back to the previous version of the document. You can just go back, right click, edit the previous document, or just go directly and publish that version of the document. You can also delete and clear all versions if you do not need them, although this is not very recommended for you to do. On the right side of that, we have a schedule where you can add a new schedule and do a certain action at a certain time. A use case for this would be, for example, if in 1 in the morning on the 20th of March, you want to publish something. For example, if you're writing blog posts or there's an event that's supposed to be on a certain day at a certain time, and you want the blog post or news, whatever, to be published at that time, you can create an action and schedule the action of publishing, unpublishing, deleting, or publishing a certain version of the document at this time. This has many use cases in the real world, but also depends on what your project is and what are your needs. Let's just delete this for now. Here, next to it, we have the Dependencies tab. This will show you all of the linked assets, in this case, documents, whether it be pages, email documents, snippets, whatever. Basically everything that is linked to the current document that you're using. This is also available on assets and data objects. It also has a lot of use cases, especially when you have a certain asset, let's say, and it's connected to a certain car. And you can find the asset, but you're having a hard time finding the certain object of the car. You can actually find them through dependencies by just, going to the certain PNG file, let's say, and we can see the asset. And now if we go here to dependencies, we can see that it's connected to the AC cars object. We can right click it, open it, and now we can see where it's used. Dependencies are really useful, especially when you're trying to dig up and see where a certain thing is used, and you can pinpoint and see if it's not used anywhere. You can probably delete it from the system because it's not needed. We skipped through the preview tab. Here on the preview tab, you can actually see the page after it's rendered. We can also choose to see how the page will look like on a tablet, on a phone, vertically and horizontally. Let's just go back to desktop. On the top, we can unpublish a certain document, which means if we go here, it's going to show us an error. But since we're in the development mode, it's not taking us to the 404 page. If we were in production mode, it would take us directly there, but right now it's showing us the error. Let's go back. Here we have the option to delete it. You can also delete it by right-clicking on the document you want to delete. You can copy documents. There are a lot of different options of what we can do with a particular document. We can actually convert it to something else, which is also a powerful tool. We can rename the document. We can also do this by right-clicking and going on rename. Show in tree is also a really good tool. So let's say that this was closed, and if we click on this show in tree, it would actually show us or open all of the needed documents to basically target the one that we're currently on. This is useful as well as on objects. When we're opening a certain object, maybe we found it by the ID in the search and we're not sure where it is, we can just click on the show in tree and it would open its location. Here we have the options to copy the ID of the object, or should I say document, copy the full path to the document, and copy the deep link. The deep link within Pimcore is actually the link to the actual object within the Pimcore administration. So, for example, someone was editing a certain page and you want to tell them, hey, this page is not done, or this is missing, or change this particular URL, image, etc. You can copy this and send it to someone, and if they open it, their Pimcore administration would open with this document opened as well. But let's say preview here is not enough and you wanted to preview the document, how it would look on the actual page. You can click on here. So your document doesn't necessarily need to be published for you to preview it like this. It will not be visible for any quote-unquote normal user that is on your page. It will only be visible to you. As you saw, when I unpublished the document, this save button also showed. The reason for that being is that you can save your changes without actually needing to publish the document. And here on the right side, you can share this particular document with another recipient. I do not have any new Pimcore users on its site, but if I did, you would get a list of other recipients which can receive this document. You can put in the title and the message, and that user would get a notification which would be shown in the bottom right corner. They would also be able to view this notification here on the left side. If we go here, there would be a list of notifications visible here where they would have a direct link to this document if they click it. Now let's look back at the edit page where I showed you the area blocks that are available for this page. Why all of these are available and how they are available depends on the code that was put for this particular template that is used. Here, if we go back to the code where we added the checker for has ads property, we're just gonna delete it so it doesn't stay here. We can see that we have the headline. Here we can see that the headline depends and is shown depending on if the document has a title. However, if the document does not have a title, we're using the Pimcore input here for the headline. The Pimcore input is basically a dynamic way of you adding a headline to a certain document, and this is what controls the area blocks. If for some reason for a certain template I wanted to define that there should only be galleries available for this page, I can just delete all of the other area blocks that are currently available, and if we go back to the administration and refresh the page, we will see that now the only available ones are for the gallery. The use case here depends on the type of page someone could potentially build. For example, if someone has a lot of galleries for a certain page that they want to build, the use case here would be if someone has let's say a blog, and blog posts are certain pages that they're adding on the site, and this page should only have, let's say, galleries and a WYSIWYG or some kind of other area blocks that you're using from Pimcore, or you have made custom ones yourself. You can control them by doing this. Let's just put them back. And if we go back to refreshing the page, we can see that all of our area blocks are now available again. If we look on the left side, we can see that the icons for these two are different, and the reason for that being is because they're not actual documents. These are Pimcore links. So if we click on Find and Buy, we can actually see where a particular link is going. And this link goes to EN Shop Products, and this is a particular category which was put for the demo. What this page would actually do is if you went to the Pimcore demo and clicked on Find and Order, you would see that this would actually leave you to the URL that was sent in the link and would filter out all of the products, in this case cars, by this particular category. We can also easily change this by going back here, leaving this open, go back to the data objects, product data, categories, and let's see what we have here. We have the 564, which is the product. This is the root category, which means it's showing all of the products. If we go back to cars, we have the 390. And let's say we want to just show the cars, not the spare parts as well. We can see that the ID of the category is 390. We can go back to the Find and Buy and just change this to 390. Click on Save and Publish, go back here and click on Find and Buy. And now we'll see that it's only showing us the cars category. So let's talk about Pimcore emails. Pimcore emails are similar to Pimcore pages or documents that I just showed. Here in the demo version, we can find the emails for the English language within the mails folder. If we open it up, we can see that we already have a few example emails within the demo. Let's go into the password recovery email. And what's happening here, if someone requests a password recovery, then they would receive this email. And in theory, it would say hello, and then let's say Ivan, if I was the one resetting my password. What's actually happening here, you can see this weird syntax. We can actually do this in another way, but what's happening here is that we're saying go to the data object, so Pimcore objects. We're going to pass you the ID of the object, and then after we fetch that object, use the method get first name, and the method get first name would return the customer's name. Well, first name. Here at the bottom, we can see that we have WYSIWYG, where we can add our custom text. This up here is customizable as well, but it's not a WYSIWYG, it's a Pimcore input. And down here we can see that we can add our custom area blocks specific for emails. We can add an email image area block, which will allow us to add images. We can add another WYSIWYG, an email teaser, which is usually a sort of snippet or a direct link to a certain object, just as you can see when searching certain products on the demo page. And email news, here you can as well drag and drop a news object within the email. Now let's go and see what's actually happening in the background. If we go to the settings tab, we have a couple of things that we can configure. For example, if you're not sending a subject from the code, you can set the subject within the administration, as well as for all of the other fields which are email related, like the from email address, reply to CC and BCC. Here on the bottom, you can see that you have the same options as you would have on a normal Pimcore document. We can see that we're using the generic mail action, within the default controller. So let's go and check that out and see what's happening there. If we go to the source controller and we go to the default controller, we have a generic mail action that's used there. And here we have the generic mail twig template that is used. So we can go to the template and see what's happening there. It's under templates, default, and generic mail. And this is what I was talking about. On the first part, we have a Pimcore input that's named greeting. We have the greeting text, which is a WYSIWYG. The Pimcore input is this, and the WYSIWYG is down here. And under it, we have a Pimcore area block with the name content, and the allowed blocks to use are email image, WYSIWYG, teaser, and news, as I just showed you earlier here. Now, one thing that you're probably wondering is, how does this email receive this customer ID parameter? Well, if we go into the code and find the service that is responsible for sending this email, we can find it under services and password recovery service. If we open up this service, here we can see that there's a send recovery mail method. And in this method, we have the logic for generating the token for the password reset. Here is the part of the logic that actually sends the email and passes the parameters. The email document variable here is the actual Pimcore email document that is located here, so the password recovery. And the set parameters, well, this depends on what you're sending within the actual email. We have the customer object. This is the customer ID that I was talking about that's being used within the email. We're sending the token as a parameter and the token link. Also, an additional thing that we're doing is adding a to, so a to email. We want to send it to the customer email and not to someone else, of course. And then we're calling the send method for sending the actual email. Another useful document type within Pimcore is the Pimcore snippet. If you find it within the documentation, it says that snippets are like little pages which can be embedded into other documents. You can create them the same way as other documents or pages. Snippets are generally used for teasers or other boxes within your document. Within the demo, we actually have a few snippets available. So let's add them to our test page that we made earlier. If we go to shared and teasers, we can see that we have 4 snippets here. We can use the pre-made area block to add these snippets. And if we just go down here, we can see that we have a standard teaser area brick. So let's click on it to add it. Here in the area brick, we also have the option to add a certain title. So let's add the title testing. Put the type to snippet, and the third one to snippet as well. Now the only thing that we need to do is actually drag and drop each snippet. We're going to use the first 3, save and publish, and if we go back to the site and refresh it, we can see that we have our snippets here. And if we click on one of the snippets, it would lead us to, well, the page that the snippet was set on to go. We can also add snippets directly to the page without using a certain area block. Here in the Pimcore documentation, you can actually see basic usage for a certain snippet. So let's copy this, go to our code. And if you remember, our test page actually uses the content controller default action. So if we open up that template, we can actually paste the snippet here. You can leave it as my snippet or call it basically whatever you wish. Now, if we go within the administration and refresh the page, we can see that at the bottom, we have now a place where we can put our snippet. It's small like this because we added the dimensions of the snippet here. And now if we drag and drop, let's say the car gallery snippet here, we can see that our snippet has been shown. Now let's refresh the page and we can see that our snippet has loaded. Let me just remove the width and everything and the height so that when we go back here and refresh it, it's going to be basically the same as it is on the front end. Hope the video helped you. And if you want to learn more about Pimcore, you can check out my Udemy course called Learning Pimcore from Zero to Hero, where I will show you all of the steps from creating a project, buying and setting up a server, as well as deploying your project. Hope to see you there.